Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, it's like if Phil Foden and Erling Haaland had formed the greatest comedy podcast duo in America instead of the greatest attacking duo in England. Is that fair, Cory?
Stop doing the soccer things, man.
It's opening day. I have to. It's opening weekend, baby.
Oh, my God.
Woo! The Premier League's back. Let's go.
Soccer. Whatever. More sports. That's fine. I'm fine with more sports. That's not just baseball. That's okay with me.
Which one of us is Erling Haaland and which one of us is Phil Foden, Cory? Do you think?
I don't know. You seem like a Phil, so let's go with that.
I seem like a Phil? I'll take it.
You seem like a Phil.
I'll definitely take it. Well, a couple of points of business before we jump into the podcast. Today we'll be talking about some new comics from Marvel and DC, as well as the conclusion of I think calling it a horror miniseries is maybe unfair, but sure, a horror miniseries from James Tynion IV. We'll also be talking about the first episode of Netflix, The Sandman, and the first 3 episodes of Paper Girls. So we got a jam-packed one for you.
Got a lot.
Yeah. But if you are looking for all of our archived podcasts, all of our future writing and past writing, all that good stuff, you can find it at nexttimeon.net. Our last episode was the monthly all old, all good book club for Monsters by Barry Windsor Smith. That's a good listen. Go check that out. Like I said, it's on nexttimeon.net. You can also follow us at nexttimeonpod on our social media platforms. And last but not least, coming up sometime during this month is Ghost Rider.
I'm excited.
The enigma that is Nicolas Cage. We'll be doing that for our bad movie club.
I think it's just like it's funny that we just kind of go through this podcast where sometimes I love him, sometimes I hate him, and it's just I don't remember Ghost Rider that well.
I think I'm one of the only people who's like never a big Nicolas Cage guy. I mean,
I don't even know when it
Raising
started.
Arizona, obviously, like a classic, all that stuff. But
it must have been National Treasure for me, I think.
National Treasure is a big one with our generation.
I think I just loved that movie as a kid. I mean, the movie holds up, but I just think as a kid, I just fucking loved that movie, and because of that, I was just like, yeah, no, this guy's like cool. Have you seen that movie again recently?
Yeah. Oh, recently, I don't know, but I've seen it.
Like he looks ridiculous in it. He wears this like ridiculous shirt the entire time.
I mean, the content of the movie is preposterous. It's a ridiculous film.
It's an insane, but I love it.
But not as insane as Ghost Rider, which we'll be talking about at the end of this month. And if you have not already checked out the YouTube channel, go check out the link in the description below of the podcast. If you have checked out the YouTube channel and you're currently watching it, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out, all that good stuff. But that's the end of the business. So let's jump into this. Let's go. Like I said, we got a jam-packed episode, so we might as well get down to it. Cory, I'm going to put a minute on the clock for you, and it's time to do the elevator pitch.
Damn, I'm about to fucking... Okay, I'm probably going to go over time. Let's see.
Squeeze something into a minute, and then
I'll do my best.
All right, ready?
My best.
Go.
Okay, right now I promise I'm not trying to sound like a shill for a entire medium. But, the webtoon comic, Everything is Fine, written by Mike Burchell, is one of the best horror comics that I've ever read. I've never really kind of got into this whole medium. I kind of thought the whole idea of scrolling to read comics is kind of weird. But I cannot recommend this series enough. It involves a married couple, both wearing cat heads in the society where everyone wears cat heads, and everything is not okay, but everyone has to pretend like it is. It is enthralling, and I cannot recommend it. I think it is free if you download the Webtoon app, just to go all the way through it. I went through it basically in like an hour because I was just so enthralled with it. It's weird. It's like kind of like Twin Peaks mixed with Stepford Wives, mixed with Gideon Falls, mixed with a bunch of other shit. Just really, really well done. Really excellent. I cannot recommend it enough.
What were you worried about?
I don't know. I thought I had to like explain what a webtoon is in general, but basically it's just like a scrolling comic.
I don't know. I feel like the name's pretty self-explanatory, right?
That's fair. But also, I mean, I like the whole medium. I was talking to Che about this, where they also involve a music occasionally, and just like the way that they can just kind of flow through the story. If the artist and writer does use the medium correctly, like everything is fine. It just makes something that would not work in physical print, which is, on one hand I hate it, but on the other hand I really get it. This is what I think, like, and like as much as I do love Friday and all the other panel syndicate things, I think they kind of overestimated people reading on their computer monitors. And I mean, because it's like people using tablets and stuff now, and like that whole like shifting thing. And I think this is the correct way to do like digital like comics and stuff like that. And even like a weird thing, reading this on my tablet, it felt way too big. That I felt like it was just worked a lot better if I could just have it like one hand and just like scrolling down.
Yeah, the one I remember was, and it's been years since I even had this this product, but the Marvel Unlimited's like I don't remember what they called it, the like smart read or whatever, where you could swipe between panels.
Oh yeah, no, Comixology still does that.
Does it? Okay. Yeah. I never really on Marvel Unlimited when I first started using it, I was like, oh, maybe this will be good to read on my phone, and it's not. I mean, it's just not how comics work.
Some of
you
them
shouldn't be reading comics like panel by panel, so it was just so weird it's such a weird experience. That whole app is like dog shit.
That app is dog shit. But like I think with the weird Comixology one, it's just like it sometimes works really well with like newer comics, so people kind of keep a very like simple structure with their boxes. Yeah. But a lot of writers and artists don't do that structure, so sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah. You mentioned Gideon Falls. I wonder what Gideon Falls looks like on the panel reader. Like the number of times there's just no panels on a page.
Yeah,
like, disparate like pieces of art around. It would be so hard to figure out how to.
It's like everything is not everything is fine. It's like Farthest Place from Here. Also kind of similar to Everything is Fine. I feel like in that whole like we're in our world, but something's very wrong, and no one's really going to give you any answers. But the story progresses, but you just don't really get the answers to all the questions that you're waiting for. But everything, I mean, something that, damn, What's the Farthest Place from Here works so much better on a page rather than like a tablet, for example.
Yeah. But I do like you were mentioning before about the music integration. I think the music integration would obviously have been really beneficial for What's the Furthest Place from Here, because they had that deluxe edition, which my comic shop never seemed to be able to get a copy of, despite months warning in advance.
Listen, same thing happened with my comic shop, where they were like, I asked for like the trade. They were like, we haven't gotten the music.
I managed to get the trade really easily, but those deluxe editions disappear in the mail all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, no, I just want the trade. They're like, oh, it's right over there. I'm like, okay, cool. But apparently that's been like, they were like stressing out about it. Apparently something's like just something with the distributor with it.
The first one, I don't know if it's still the case, but the first one that I ordered was for the deluxe edition for issue 1. It was, I was going to say held up, but completely lost because there was that fire at the vinyl printing factory that I guess printed all of the vinyls for like the world.
Apparently they're like, it's apparently starting to come back again, but like that was just a big reason why no one could get a vinyl for.
Yeah, very, very weird.
They're waiting for my Silk Sonic vinyl, so whenever that gets whatever. But Che, let's like stop talking. Enough about my silly thing. Let's go to you.
All right, putting a minute on the clock for me and go. I am pitching a show on Peacock, which is the oft-forgotten streaming platform for NBC. For those of you who aren't using it to obsessively watch NBC, you maybe have not even thought about Peacock in a while. But they do have some good originals on there, including one that came out last week. 4 episodes have dropped so far, 3 on the first week, and then they just dropped 1 yesterday. The dramatic romantic mystery starring Kristen Milioti and William Jackson Harper, and it is like this dual story that explores the mystery of disappearance of a couple, and then in the present, the Milioti and Harper are like tracking down the mystery that happened 20 years in the past, and this parallel between their relationship and this past relationship. And so far, it's really well done, and it's just set in like just this beautiful resort. So obviously, gorgeous to look at.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's good. It's like this nice, like easy watching. It reminded me of a favorite of everybody's from last year that ranked in the Emmy nominations, White Lotus. It's not quite as like biting as White Lotus was, which I think was a big part of what was fun about that show. Was like all of these gorgeous people in this gorgeous place being human garbage. This is not quite that extreme, But the like murder mystery factor is really interesting, and obviously, Milioti and Harper are two of my favorite current working actors, and I really like them. Their chemistry is really good. Although I guess I should say their lack of chemistry, because as of this 4 episodes into the show, their relationship's like kind of on the outs, but it's like a really believable, long-suffering marriage, for lack of a better phrase. So I'm really enjoying it thus far.
You know, I think we almost talked about it, but there's like, for once, I'm like, oh wait, I actually need to watch TV, and
yeah, Paper Girls is more on brand for us, so we decided to swap that one in.
As like Corey's favorite comic book, probably during our recording tenure of this. Not saying favorite show, but we'll get to that. I'm not you know what I was, I'm not saying I disliked it.
They'll never make a Gideon Falls TV show, so I'll have to take what I get.
You'll never get that. You will never ever get that, and I apologize.
It would be, I think, done well, it would be incredible, but it's such a difficult show to execute. You probably would just be awful, so I'm okay with not getting it. All right, well let's move on to a couple of new comics from Marvel and DC. We'll start first up with Ant-Man from the great Al Ewing. Corey, you want to run down sort of what this is, this concept of this book so far?
Well, so far, I mean, all we really know about this book is that it is a 4-issue miniseries, which, I mean, honestly, it's always, we do complain that the fact that Marvel doesn't make enough miniseries. But in this first issue, we don't have a lot of information. We open up with clearly in the future with a lot of meta narrative and text with some unknown guy dressed in an Ant-Man-esque costume. Then we flash back into a very well-written...
well, hold on. You buried the lead there. We flash forward to, like, the Marvel Institute or whatever was
well, that's what I meant.
Cleverly named.
Yes.
Why is it named the future. Marvel whatever? Did Al Ewing not want to name his place?
Just fuck you.
All right, fair
the
enough.
Marvel narrative experience. I mean, maybe this is just going to get super duper meta.
Well, I interrupted you, but this comic is incredibly meta already. Just the concept of it from the get go. So yeah, you want to run down? Sorry,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we start in the future with this unknown man, and then he seems to do some time travel shenanigans to go back in time, where we find ourselves. Of course, Marvel will never give us a specific year of when things are, but it's very clearly supposed to be like that 1960s Tales to Astonish era of Marvel, where all the villains are ridiculous and everyone over talks.
Yeah, no brown people in sight, so we know it's got to be the 1950s.
I mean, it makes sense though, yeah. I mean, come on, they can in the movie theater, Che. What are you thinking?
Oh no! I wasn't suggesting it wasn't accurate, but I really love the art style shift.
Yeah, the art style change is really good. It's like it does a really good job of like that whole like aesthetic, but it's also so clean, and I love like the off coloring that like kind of gives you that whole like the original like yellow tinting. That's like why all the bad guys were yellow tinted back then. Well, now Wolverine came in later. Sorry guys, that's when I'm just saying my thoughts out loud when I do this podcast. But yeah, we find our titular hero, Ant-Man, Hank Pym, with his fiancée, wife, I can never remember, Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp, as they watch apparently Namor produced the Submariner versus the Fantastic Four movie. And they're just watching that in a movie theater. Such an insane concept.
There's a lot of really goofy shit in this issue.
Very, very goofy. Because, I mean, also, I think in this universe, Namor, like, flooded Manhattan at one point. So, like...
do we think that's in this universe?
I think we're supposed to be believing that this is supposed to be, like, our, like, standard... Okay. More, I feel like this is going to get really weird, and I kind of hope that... I mean, Al Ewing is, like, the one writer at Marvel that writes some shit that I'm like, he's on Grant Morrison psychedelics.
Yeah. Not
doing nearly as many as him, but he's like Gerard Way level of psychedelics in comparison to
for sure.
Grant Morrison. But we find them in the movie, watching this movie, and Ant-Man is being popcorn's getting thrown at him by a young Eric O'Grady, aka the worst of the 3 Ant-Men. Just a big old piece of shit. He is the worst. Between Scott Lang and him and Hank Pym,
I guess so.
Objectively, Eric O'Grady is the worst. So what Hank Pym does at Get Popcorn thrown at him, he bullies a small child, which I do love. I love that as a very. I would do the same thing. I do the same exact thing. It's even funnier
because he uses his superpowers to bully the child.
Yes.
He's like shrinks down and attacks him with a bunch of ants, which is certainly not heeding Uncle Ben's warning of great power comes great responsibility by any stretch of the imagination.
Basically equivalent of going and giving it a swirly and then going back to the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
I really like the tone of this book. I think this book, the tone of it is really effective and is really reminiscent of, like, obviously comic books, a lot of them have gotten way more serious and adult now. But in the 50s, they were, like, for kids. Not still for kids, but, like, they were silly and goofy and weird shit, like ants would misspell the word help in comic books for, like, a laugh. So. And
then, like, and then, like, people, like, the thought bubbles is just, like, no one actually thinks of, like, this, like... After,
the constant internal monologue is a little grating on me personally, but I get it that it's on.
It's on brand. I mean, after he bullies this child, there's a shadowy villain where there's ants, you'll find the Ant-Man at last. Time to use this here wrist-mounted radio transmitter to signal the others for our revenge.
Obviously, in this scenario, he was correct, but is where there are ants, there is the Ant-Man a good way to live your life? I'm sorry. I just it seems like there's probably ants a lot of places where there isn't the Ant-Man.
Okay, actually, let's I get it because I get it for the sake of plot because this is how comics worked back then. How did he know he was there? How did he know he was at this movie? Because apparently Hank Pym's identity is a secret. So how would he know that he's at this movie?
The other thing is all four of these villains that kidnap him know that he is Hank Pym, but don't know what Hank Pym looks like.
Wait, I think, do they know that he's Hank Pym, or do they just be like, who? I think they don't know who Hank Pym is.
No, there is the line after they've kidnapped him, I think, right? Maybe not. It was confusing because when they finally kidnap him, one of the guys is like, he looks familiar, but he can't place him. And we see the thought bubble that Hank Pym is like, oh, this window washer, which the villain is that he's a window washer, and he walks around with a fucking Windex bottle, which is absolutely preposterous.
It's a silly group of villains. It's like this. It's just fun because it's just like poking. Like, I didn't look up how like real these people were, these real characters are, because obviously they wouldn't use them anymore. Where, actually no, apparently they're real because they reference their issues that they showed up in. Yeah. I
would imagine this is all very on brand and like in style for the 1950s Ant-Man comics, which I will not pretend to be all that familiar with. So I like I said, if this book had come out today, I probably would have thought it was like bad. I mean, not sorry. If it had come out in today's style, it wasn't clearly referential. It obviously did come out today, but like, wasn't referential of these like past comic book styles, I'd have been like, this is a bad way to write comic books. I don't really rock with this. But the fact that it's very tongue in cheek and clearly is like lampshading all these ideas about like really over the top inner monologues and like ridiculous and stupid villains, I think it really works. I really like this book a lot. I'm interested to see how the rest of this miniseries goes, because I imagine we were talking about this before the recording, that it's probably going to be, each issue is like a moving forward in time, the same sort of way that like Spider-Man Life Story was.
I was actually gonna bring that up just now because I just realized something. I'm wondering if they're going to like kind of copy like each like different type of like, I'm trying to think, era of comics, where I guess like
I would imagine
like I think like Scott Lang came around in the 80s. I don't feel like looking it up, but it's like I think he's like from like that kind of, I never remember the eras. I guess it's that would be the Bronze Age, I guess. And then Eric O'Grady was from the mid 2000s when we first started getting into comics. So I'm wondering if there's just going to be like a different shift with shit, because I remember like when Eric O'Grady happened was like you couldn't make that comic now, where I think in the first issue he sneaks into a woman's shower and like watches her, which is
you could make that comic, but it would be on like Aftershock Comics or something.
Exactly, or
DC
it would be like
publish it.
And I know the entire point. I think the comic was called the Irredeemable Ant-Man, which I guess is the whole point of it. But I'm like, I remember reading that first issue. I'm like, I don't want to read this character anymore. I don't really care if it's like.
I think there was a time where they
Grady,
really leaned into like
yeah.
Ant-Man's a dickhead. Like after the smack, they were like, this character's gonna be our anti-hero for Marvel.
And then they I think like I was talking to Shay before, and I feel like Hank Pym just kind of had such a short end of the stick where the writers were like, he's a woman beater, and it's just like it was a miscommunication between the writer and the author, because Marvel Comics used to write their comics so much differently, where it would just be art first and then you fill in the bubbles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was a big, like, people have just used that against him forever, to the point right now where I think he's currently in space fused with Ultron. But
I'm sorry, comic books are dumb.
Dumb. Yeah, they're very dumb. But at the end of the issue, after he beats the bad guys with the help of the Wasp, he is transported into the future with this mysterious Ant-Man, where we seem to kind of just flash back and find ourselves once again in like kind of a normal modern day type comic books. And also the art changes. I love both of these. I don't know if it's the different artists, but I just love the change in it.
There's like only one artist credited, so
maybe it's like, I think it might just be.
It's only one artistic team, so I think it's probably just one artist, which is really interesting. You know,
I think Jordi Belair. Yeah. We've seen things with Jordi Belair. I don't know if Jordi Belair is
Belair is Gideon Falls fame.
Yeah, the coloring in this, like, I think maybe it just might be a really good job of like shading and coloring. Yeah, because I think like the art might be the same, but I think it's just like a good job of just shading and coloring.
Yeah. I like this. I like this style of storytelling where we have like sort of this hub world where we're gonna jump back and forth, and then I imagine the 4 issues seems weirdly short to me. Even like 5 issues, I would think that we'd be able to, because we have sort of like 4 decades or 4 eras, not 4 decades, because the 60s are more than 40 years ago, but we have 4 eras of comic books to explore. And then I would have liked to, not I'm jumping on, maybe this is what they're going to do already, but it would seem to me that you would do 4 eras of Ant-Man and then have a single issue at the end where we go back to this hub world and like explore what has been going on narratively with all this stuff. But we'll see.
I just was and apparently as they used to do, just tell you what's going to happen next issue. Yeah. Apparently we're skipping over Scott Lang.
Yeah.
And we're getting dropped into the mid 2000s. Soon to be a Disney Plus series, Secret Invasion, where we follow Eric O'Grady as he graves robs Scott Lang for his Ant-Man helmet.
Yeah, so it seems like Scott Lang is going to be showing up in at least 2 of these books, sort of.
I think it's kind of interesting.
You get a Scott Lang cameo.
It's like, I think kind of an interesting idea about it is just like, we get enough Scott. It's okay just to show the other 2 Ant-Man, because we don't really. Hank Pym is like banished because he's not the main character in the Marvel, because of synergy, of course. But actually, what do we got up next?
Next up is the new book from Josie Chapel and Doc Shaner, which means of course the art is fucking flames. New champion of Shazam, which
you know what really sucks, Shay? I went to go look at some information I just pulled up on Reddit, and apparently there is a Ask Me Anything thread between Josie Campbell and Doc Shaner that I really wish I read through beforehand. But I was wondering if I should have even checked the artist when we were reading, so I'm like, this is like Doc Shaner. But as like I was going through and I was trying to catch up on comics beforehand, I didn't double back and check. But yeah, no, the art's fucking fantastic in this.
Yeah, Doc Shaner, obviously, for those of you who aren't familiar with the name, most recently of Strange Adventures fame.
Yes.
And the art style is quite similar, obviously.
Very similar. Different, less poppy of coloring, but I think it does work. But I think the popping of color made it.
Yeah, because of course the Doc Shaner storyline in Strange Adventures is supposed to be this like
romanticized
sort of dream romanticized
John Carter of Mars. Yeah. But yeah, new champion of Shazam. So listen, it's hard to keep track of this shit, but apparently for some reason Billy Batson.
Yeah, this gets dropped in early in the book, and I was like, okay, sure, DC, if you say so.
Where's Billy? He's not here. I'm like, all right. So the new champion of Shazam is going to be following Mary Marvel, who I think it's Mary Marvel. I can never remember the names.
You know what, Corey? I'm really sick of this woke politics. I like my superhero characters to be free of politics. White men.
I think it's such a but I just realized something though. She's not even Mary Marvel anymore, because it's just like they can't use that right now.
No, because she's much younger than the Mary Marvel in the books that I've read, at least. She's a college student, and Mary Marvel is like an adult in the.
I can't.
That Shazam, the Shazam's book we read late last year, or
No, she's
late
the
2020?
oldest. She's like, well, I mean, she's usually the oldest out of the bunch.
Right, but
I
she
don't
wasn't
know.
a college kid, I didn't think.
I think she was like supposed to be like late high school, like.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Maybe
I mean, like,
misread. 'Cause to be fair, she doesn't look like when there's the line that like she's going to Vassar. I was like, this clearly 30-year-old woman that Doc Shader's been drawing is a college student. Okay, Doc.
They're all 18-year-olds. No, they're not. But yeah, no, I think it's like, so yeah. Apparently, Billy Batson is currently stuck in another dimension. As you know, man, comics. And all the other Shazam kids have
just if you're reading this, don't think about it too hard.
Don't think about it
It's
too
not
much,
actually
yeah.
that important, and it
So
will
all of the
ruin your
other-
experience.
So all the other Shazam kids have lost their powers, and Mary's finally kind of like striking out on her own and like coming from her like foster family and kind of doing her own thing. It's funny reading this. I'm like, do we have any like superheroes that we genuinely follow that's like college students anymore? 'Cause I feel like that was like,
No.
it's always like in between being like struggling like young adults, like I mean mid 20s and then
Miles
like 30
Morales
year
is
olds.
like high school age.
And he's high school, yeah. And like, I don't think we get like many in this like capacity, really.
Yeah.
A lot of, or at least a lot of comic book characters like, I'm gonna go to college, and it never really ends up happening.
Certainly not superhero books, at least. There's a few like image.
I mean, back in the day, of course, we had Spider-Man when he did his stint, but that's like before our time, honestly.
Yeah. No, I think this is a really interesting approach to this type of character. You have obviously this girl. We get this monologue at the beginning of the book where she's like trying to. The whole point of her going to this school 8 hours away from Philly is so that she can start over a new life, and then the second she gets there, talking
Of course
around
you can.
drags her back in. So.
Yes,
I really like that idea of like literally the burden of having to be a superhero is more like visceral in this book than I've seen in a while, and it's just like really excellently written. Campbell's got a great sense of humor, and her dialogue is great. And once again, just praising the art of Doc Shaner, which is fucking incredible.
I mean, I think my favorite, like, there's many favorite pages from this book because Doc Shaner, but like when she's like kind of forced back into being a superhero again, and first like the Shazam transformation page that fucking rocked, and then when she shoots him with lightning,
I was a little
and
confused before,
Okay.
before we get to it. I thought she didn't have powers. There's the line early in the book where they're like, "We no longer have powers."
yeah,
When
I
did they
think
get their powers back?
I think the bunny is supposed to have like
Given her the powers?
Like I think the whole idea is that like Billy transferred the powers to her,
Gotcha.
and I guess maybe she just assumed that she lost her powers or whatever, just maybe.
Well, there's also the
reluctantly.
line about she's no longer sharing the power with anybody else, so it's
Yeah.
she's got 5 times the Shazam power.
So I think like she's like, I mean, Shazam power was originally just like it was only Billy, and then power of family and friendship, you had to share it around. I didn't actually know that was a rule though. I don't think they've ever like expressed that in the more modern run that he was kind of sharing
Like
his powers.
divvying it up as opposed to
Basically.
sharing it. Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, like, listen, I'm not a huge Shazam guy, admittedly, like not from like the original, blah blah blah. But I mean, like, honestly, I prefer this rather than like young boy is a superhero. This is a bit more interesting because it's like balancing first off being like by yourself freshman year, which is just rough for a lot of people, and then also now you have to be this superhero, and I think that's a very like fun environment to. And I feel like I could read this book for a long time. I would like to keep reading because I mean, also I don't know much about Mary, so she's a bit of like a blank slate. They give us like a good like drop in. And I mean, who wouldn't be freaking out and being in an orientation than a bunny's talking to you? If it would just standing up yelling at a bunny. Right?
Although to be fair, my first move would have been to walk out of the room, not
Absolutely.
like just start talking to the bunny in my bag. I would have removed myself from around people and then started having the conversation. But that's just me, I guess. I mean, she's clearly got more experience with this sort of thing than I do, so let me not knock it. Yeah, I'm with you. I think the setup for this book, it really lends itself to like a long run as opposed to, I mean, if this is a miniseries too, that's fine. I'm not saying I would be upset if it was a miniseries, but I like the idea of really spending time with this character as she grows and like gets more more familiar with the role of like, I guess, being solo superhero, because obviously she's been Shazam before, but this is a different experience and in a different world. And then at the end, of course, we get that teaser that something nefarious has happened with her foster family, which
So I'm not super duper familiar with Josie Campbell. Apparently
she's not written a lot of stuff before.
No, apparently she's more of I think seems like she's more of a TV and comedian person, honestly.
Yeah, she's got 3 credits with DC so far. She did a story in one of the issues of Wonder Woman Black and Gold, which was, for those of you who remember those like series of anthology stories where each book was like a couple different short stories from different artistic and writing teams. And then I think did the art on Futures, or did something on Future State Green Lantern issue 2. I will not pretend to have been reading Future State Green Lantern, so I don't really know.
Neither have I.
But yeah, I think she's really good in this. Yeah, she's got some IMDb credits. So I think she's mostly an actor and
a UCB alum.
Oh, she's written for some DC animated shows before. She
apparently she's producing this new Superman cartoon show that I've been really excited about. I was looking at her AMA and I was wondering, because somebody actually did ask her the direct question that, like, with the merger, do you think it's going to get canceled or not? Apparently it's still well into production, so fingers crossed there.
I think there's, I mean, we will maybe backtrack on this Warner Brothers Discovery.
Do not get me started.
when both of us, especially Corey, have tamped down their rage about it, also when more stuff comes out. But I think I also hope and I believe a little bit that maybe their alarmism around it has been maybe a little more than it needs to be. Obviously, a lot of people have already lost their jobs, which is awful. But I've seen a lot of stories which are like HBO Max canceling every single show ever, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like even like a remotely plausible business strategy. So I don't think Discovery will do that. We'll see. Maybe I'll be looking back with a pie on my face, and the only thing on HBO Max will be Ice Road Truckers and like white dudes fishing in Alaska or whatever the fuck is on Discovery Plus. It's not a streaming platform that I subscribe to, so I don't know. Yeah, we'll be covering that, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, but a lot of great pages, a lot of great art in this. Just really well done, really well written, I thought. Yeah,
I think this is just a really excellent team, and I'm pretty surprised that somebody as legendary as Doc Shaner is working with a relative rookie in like comic book writing in particular. Obviously, like we said, she's got a lot of TV show credits under her belt and is very talented at this. So it's not like she doesn't know what she's doing. But I was just usually you don't see with a name as big as Doc Shaner getting paired up with a pretty new comic writer, but it's really successful. I like this style. This book's a lot.
I gotta assume that people really like the early scripts or whatever of like the new Superman show, and I gotta assume that must have been like, or at least like her ideas coming from that. I gotta assume that must be what it was.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just like a smart move. Like I probably wouldn't have picked this book up if it wasn't if it didn't have Doc Shaner on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I didn't recognize Joseph Campbell's name. So
I'm glad you're the one. I'm glad you picked it, honestly. Yeah. It's very rare that you picked out a superhero book, and I'm glad you picked... I honestly, this one flew underneath my radar, and I'm excited. Hey, listen, I mean, like, DC has a good track record of pairing up great artists with relatively new creators. And I mean, look at this in N.K. Jemisin. It's just... I hope this... Like, listen, if this miniseries keeps up this quality, I'm excited to buy my physical copy whenever that comes around.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, moving on to some TV. We're going to TV based on comics, so we're not leaving comics entirely.
I don't think we're leaving comics at all this episode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, everything we're talking about is a comic book or based on a comic book.
I've done it finally.
Don't say I've done it. Like I don't like comic books. I don't understand. It's just, never mind. We're not going to get into that here.
Okay.
So like I said, we're going to be talking about Sandman. Just episode 1 for those of you who haven't gotten a chance to binge watch the entire season in the like 12 and a half hours it's been out or whatever the fuck. I did see when I was looking for clips that we could show on the YouTube that some people have already dropped Sandman season 1 reviews, which is like,
how the fuck do people do that?
They must get screeners. They were like,
oh, okay. I have to say, like, unless they woke up at like whatever time Netflix drops things.
There's no way.
And it's like this fucking like I didn't sleep, and then I decided to write it out immediately.
No, it wasn't, because I think it wasn't even like a piece. It was a YouTube video. So if you had like, I don't think even if you had woken up at midnight, watched the entire season straight through, and then started as the credits for the last episode started recording your YouTube video, you'd have had it out in time. So no, they got screeners, which we don't get because we're regular people like you, and also I wouldn't want to release a full season review right now. Anyway, we're just gonna be talking about the first episode. Not too many spoilers, especially if you're familiar with the Sandman story at all, really. Because this first episode is kind of like a prologue. It's like a setup.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I think in the book, if I remember correctly, this is like gets handled in one issue. It's like pretty quick.
Which I was surprised. I think it's a smart move because a lot of important setup for the rest of the series happens. But I can see a lot of people who, unlike the two of us that were really excited for this show, coming out of this first episode being like, oh, that was kind of slow. I don't know if I bother with the next, I think it's 9 more episodes.
I think that's why they put the trailer at the end of the first episode.
Yeah.
Which Netflix
doesn't usually do. So I think
usually don't. Yeah. I think it's just like this is a very slow burn, in the sense that even like the final couple images are like, I liked it, and I thought honestly, I was a bit surprised about how well this production value was for this. I mean, I was kind of concerned. I mean, but this show looked like it looked like it deserved to look. For being like one of the most acclaimed comic books of all time, I felt like seeing it on screen. I'm like, yeah, this works. And I mean, the actor, I'm not really super familiar with him. Looks barely had any lines this episode, but fucking kills it. I get some Charles Dance. Always want some of that.
Too bad he doesn't return though. I mean, as the structure of this show will be, for those of you familiar with the book, it's like basically it's going to be pretty episodic. So I don't think there's going to be many characters that get more than one episode, or maybe 2, besides Tom Sturridge, who's playing Dream. But the cast for this show is insane. Gwendolyn Christie, Jenna Coleman, as you already said, Charles Dance, the legend, Taron Egerton, Asim Chowdhury, a personal favorite. We got
Taron's in this?
Willis. Yeah.
Shit, I didn't know he was in this.
Yeah, a lot of. I mean, his character is not yet credited, so I wonder. If he'll be later.
It's been so long since I read this book, and I think I was talking to Shay. I'm like, I don't think I ever actually finished it because it's not really a binging series.
No, the
you can't like just
400
binge
issues of Sandman. No,
it's like. I mean, if you guys are familiar with Neil Gaiman, and we've talked about Neil Gaiman as a comic book writer, and that motherfucker is dense. Yeah, he likes to write dense.
1409.
Yeah, something like that. 1609. There's a Marvel, where we talked about that, where we like the book, but goddamn, that man likes to write. And I mean,
he's a novelist at his core, for sure.
He's a novelist, and I could as soon as he started talking, or like, I was like, oh, this motherfucker isn't like. I knew he did the teleplay as soon as it and it works because that man can write a fucking shit out of a prose. But this is the way it was presented in like the very like storybook, and also like, God, I love this. Like, this for Neil, this is like Neil Gaiman a shit right here. Also, Gwendolyn Christie, I have not seen it yet, but God, that's some good ass casting as Lucifer. Excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, Neil Gaiman, one of my favorite writers, has come up on the show a lot. His stuff has usually been adapted really well. I loved Good Omens, and I really loved the American Gods to start.
It had a great
really
start.
Dicey as like Gaiman's involvement got less, like more.
Didn't he get like, I don't want to say like kicked off, but I think like apparently got like shut out a bit.
I mean, so he was much more involved in the first season, which is the best one. And then he was like almost not involved at all in the second season, from what I understood, which is probably the weakest. And then the third and final season, he had more of a say in, which was still not as good as the first, but much better than the second. But by that time, the second season had done a lot of damage, really, to the trajectory of the show. I think that show could have been really successful and is one of my favorite books of all time. So it is really a bummer to me that it never got finished. Although there's been some rumors of a movie that I don't really believe will happen. But hey, I keep my hope up. But let's talk about
I'm sorry, what movies for what? For American
movie, like
Gods?
finishing up American Gods. Like
gotcha.
Yeah,
I was
the Serenity treatment.
I don't know why I feel like I remember seeing that the fact that they were going to try to make a sequel to it, but maybe I just of Good Omens, and I think maybe I was just
I think Good Omens was really successful for Amazon, so that wouldn't
it was renewed as a second. It was renewed for a second season.
That was a big hit for them.
How will that work?
It had to be I guess you content.
You know, honestly, I could honestly. I mean, yeah, you could make a sequel to that book if they really wanted to. It's just I guess he never really wanted to write it without Terry Pratchett.
Yeah. Heaven and Hell come and fight again. It's not that hard, right? I would assume. But let's talk about this first episode.
Always want more David Tennant. I will never complain about more David Tennant.
Absolutely agree. You want to run down the sort of plot, mostly set up for this first episode?
If you want to keep stalling me for like 5 seconds, sure.
I could do it if you want.
I literally watched the first episode. It's just sometimes kind of hard to do that whole thing. But okay, so basically we open up in a very spooky looking basically shit, you know. A lot of occult stuff happening. Che, you can do this better than me. My brain's not working right now. Please.
Well, we get introduced
Help.
to the dream world, and we get a voiceover by Tom Sturridge, who's, like I said, playing the dream, who's describing these worlds of this world of dreams that you go to, and also gives us an introduction to all the the lords that will be coming throughout this book. I mean, we've already seen Corinthian, who is the big bad of, I would imagine, at least this season of the Sandman, and we'll get Death later on for sure. Death is another one that's been coming, because Death is the one that Roderick Burgess, played by Charles Dance, is trying to summon when he accidentally summons the Sandman / Dream to his house, and then I mean, it's like purely evil in a way that only Charles Dance can really pull off. I mean, like you said, I love Charles Dance, absolute fucking legend. But it's like almost comical that he's like, I'm going to keep this man in my basement for 100 years?
Yeah.
Why, my guy? For what?
For what? And yeah, but basically, I mean, the episode is just like, Dream in the basement, but a lot of it is following Charles Dance and his second son.
Yeah, and like the world's, the repercussions to the world, as there is no Sandman to guide people off. There's a disease that has started to infiltrate. I'm blanking on the name of it, but basically it either locks you into a sleep forever, prevents you from ever sleeping, or makes you a sleepwalker. Which is how the fuck they like one thing could do that to everybody. But either way, you just get a bunch of sleep ailments, and then we see, of course, like I said, he's trapped in this house for 100 years. So we see over the course of Roderick Burgess' life, the father, Charles Dance, and the entire life of his son, we see they both grow old and die, although Burgess is killed by his son accidentally.
Yeah.
In the most frail old guy death ever. He bangs his head against glass and is like done for it. It's a little. I don't. At least hit him a little harder, but whatever.
You know, I get you. But like, yeah, the son's like supposed to be like being like, oh, I kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's like you could have done the right thing. And I think that's kind of like.
And then of course his like husband ends up freeing him.
Yeah.
Which is obviously the right thing to do, but then of course does get a bunch of his staff locked in sleep forever. The like 2 security guards get fucked up.
Wait, what are you talking about? His husband releases him. I thought.
So there's the scene. I think it's intentional. There's a scene where his husband is wheelchairing the son out. He says, "I'm never coming back here," and he like scrapes his foot along the, I don't know what to call it, the pennant on the ground or whatever that's keeping him in.
Oh, I guess I must have looked away.
Like smeared. So
I must have looked away.
Yeah, so that's how he gets out and is able to put the guy to sleep, and then obviously eventually gets out because he convinces him in a dream to shoot the glass. I think it was supposed to be on purpose, because you see him scrape it with his foot, and then he very pointedly looks back. I'm 99% sure we're supposed to read it as he did it on purpose. So that's what happens. He gets out, and then he gets back to his dream world, only to discover that it has been ravaged by time, where his like subjects have abandoned him because they believe he abandoned them, some of them, and then some of them have went into the world to terrorize humans for like a laugh, I guess. So
just a goof.
I think like I said, I think this first episode is a little slow in a vacuum. If you're not excited for the Sandman show, you just pick it up because it's on your Netflix home screen. I could see you being like, not for me. I would say stick around, because especially based on where this book is going to go, and like you said, Corey, that like this season on Sandman, I think this show's really going to hit its stride in the second episode.
Yeah. The book gets very. There's a reason why this is one of those books that like people are like acclaimed kind of. I don't like. It's like not something you want to recommend to a first-time comic book reader, but if you ever get into it or like into the medium, this is like a fantastic book.
It's on. If you ever Google top 10, top 100 comic books of all time, it's on every single list for a reason. Neil Gaiman is an excellent writer and an excellent comic writer, and the art in these books is fantastic. I was wondering how they were going to transform the art onto screen, and I think they've done a really good job. I would love to know how expensive this show is. I didn't see any stats for that, but it is the production design of it is up there for sure. And I was surprised because usually Netflix is not for first seasons is not willing to like break out the bank, but they really did for this one. Or maybe it was more WB television. I don't know how that shit works.
Yeah, fucking knows at this point. Yeah. It's funny. I was just like Googled it. I clicked the top 5 articles from Google top comics of all time. Sandman is in the
on all of them. Yeah.
Top 5 of every single one of them.
And deservedly so. Deservedly
so.
I don't know if it'd be on my top 10 list if I was making like a personal top 10 list versus an objective top 10 list. But
we have like very particular taste though with our comics. I mean, it might not be in my top 5 either, but I can definitely respect how good it is. I mean, honestly, who knows? Watchmen will be in it. That's probably just how I'm feeling on that day, though.
Yeah. I mean, it is undeniably has had a lot of influence, and the only reason it's taken, I think, this long to get an adaptation is because it is such a daunting text. Like it's, I mean, how many issues is it? Is it really? I said 400 as an exaggeration, but it's not.
It's like 100.
It's not like a short. It's not a short.
It's not a short, but no, and it's also like I was saying, it's not a bingeable read at all. Like I think I was like probably reading it for like a month before I could have to take a break. Honestly, I have.
So I'm looking. So the Sandman itself is 75, and then there's 11.
11 volumes.
There's 11 of 2 spin-off series from the Dream Hunters and Overture. So it's a big one.
It's a big one, and I think they did bring it back again. Like there's like some like Sandman inspired stuff, but I think you would be, if you ever want to get into it, I think you're very okay just doing
the Sandman universe stuff that DC Black Label is printing right now has all been really good. I've liked all the Sandman universe stuff.
It's funny. I remember like it was being like people were treating it like kind of like how Watchmen was treated, where it's just like you shouldn't add more into it. But everything I've read on the because we've done some single issues from it that I've always enjoyed. I mean, like the Watchmen thing. I think the only thing I've liked from Watchmen that was not directly in like from Watchmen was just Doomsday Clock. Everything else I've been always kind of.
Are you counting Rorschach in that too?
Never mind. I'm not. I forgot about Rorschach. But Rorschach.
I think Rorschach's the only other one that I would include in my list of like successful spin-offs or successors to Watchmen. Everything else, I'm with you that it's not. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Especially what was that? The like official prequel. The like.
Before Watchmen.
Before Watchmen is.
Yeah, and apparently all of those are hot garbage. So.
Have you never read it?
No, I didn't read it.
It's not good. You're not.
I didn't like when I first was reading comics, I didn't like Watchmen. I don't think I liked Watchmen until either we did a book club on it or I reread it while the HBO Max series, the HBO series was coming out. Yeah. Because I think honestly, also I think Watchmen was the only comic that I think works so well with the Comixology swiping thing, because like since it's like all the panels are set up like that, you kind of just go panel to panel and it kind of helps you keep the details really well.
Don't tell Alan Moore you read his comic book on a computer. He'll be very.
He's gonna come kick my ass. Insane looking white man is just gonna appear outside of.
Yeah, like I said, I think this first episode is very successful. I'm stoked for the rest of the season because like this cast is insane. It's just like the who's who of great British actors. And then Pat Oswalt, who's also great but not British. Have
you looked at like the I never actually listened to the audiobook, but the audiobook
no, because you know what? I don't like audiobooks with. I love listening to audiobooks on a drive or like when I'm working they're great. I don't love the ones that have multiple voices.
Oh, you don't like audio dramas then?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I like audio dramas.
I don't know why. I just never. Maybe because you know what? It's probably because all the ones I used to listen to them nonstop as a kid. Like I would just have audiobooks on in the background whenever I was doing anything, and probably because all of those were all single narrators. Whenever it changed, I'd just been too locked into what I liked to get into it. I tried listening to Sandman one because it's on Audible, right? It's like an Audible original.
Yeah, it's Audible.
I think I got it for free, and I was not into it. So.
Also,
I'll give it a second.
Che, unfortunately, Che, Taron is only in the audiobook. He's not in the actual.
Oh, series. is that okay? I got robbed. I got lied to by Google. Okay,
you got lied to by Google.
So that not Taron edited, but the other people all are in the show that I listed. So. That's too bad. I mean, it makes sense. He is currently in an Apple Plus TV show. That would have been quite the filming schedule for him, but I get it.
Yeah, I feel like the show must have been in production for a while, though. I mean, the first set was great, but we should move on.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about James Tynion IV's The Closet, and close out with a discussion of the first 3 episodes of Paper Girls.
My name is Peter B. Parker. I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and for the last 22 years, I thought I was the one and only Spider-Man. What a day. I'm pretty sure you know the rest. You see, I saved the city, fell in love, I got married, saved the city some more, maybe too much. My marriage got testy, made some dicey money choices, don't invest in a spider-themed restaurant. Then like 15 years passed, blah, 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 super burn. I broke my back, a drone flew into my face. I buried Aunt May, my wife and I split up. But I handled it like a champion. Because you know what? No matter how many times I get hit, I always get back up. And I got a lot of time to reflect and work on myself. Did you know that seahorses, that they mate for life? Could you imagine a seahorse seeing another seahorse and then making it work? She wanted kids and it scared me. I'm pretty sure I broke her heart. Flash forward, I'm in my apartment doing push-ups, doing ab crunches, getting strong. When this weird thing happened, and I gotta say, weird things happen to me a lot, but this was real weird.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right. Talking about James Tynion IV's 3-issue miniseries, The Closet, with art by Gavin Fullerton and colors by Chris O'Halloran. And Corey, why don't you take it and give it a quick synopsis? Although the plot of this book is pretty
Simple.
Yeah, it's pretty stripped down.
So a father is basically dealing with both his dissolving, I don't say dissolving, but yeah, maybe dissolving marriage. I said both. Dissolving marriage, a cross-country move from New York to Portland, and his son, who seems to be having this constant nightmare that there's a monster in his closet.
Yeah.
And it is presented initially. I mean, like, we both thought this was just gonna be straight up a horror comic.
The first issue, at the end of the first issue, which Corey and I don't think talked about on this podcast, we read it for the rundown. I think we cut it last minute because
we did cut it. We cut it.
Not a lot of stuff happens in it. But yes, it's like sets up the first issue, at least sets up what seems like it's going to be a pretty straightforward, like, classic James Tynion horror book. And then issues 2 and 3 are very different than I was expecting, especially in that I thought the kid was going to be the main character, and he's not really in the book.
No, he's not. I think the kid is more of, like, just kind of showing, or like the whole point of it, I guess. I mean, I think for sure. I mean, let's keep talking about what exactly it is. Mm-hmm. But the first book opens up with basically we get a lot of, like, explanation of this main character through his conversations with other people.
Yeah.
And, like, the beginning of the first book talks about it's him stopping at a bar on his way back from getting packing tape so he can help finish up the boxes. But when you're on an errand, you usually shouldn't stop to get 3 beers. Just saying.
Usually you shouldn't.
Usually you should not do that. And then, like, he goes home to his wife, and his son can't sleep. Obviously his wife catches him because, 1, he brought back masking tape like a jackass, and 2, he smells like beer.
I mean, this guy is a true fuck up. We find out
honestly, it's one of those books where, like, the main character is such a piece of shit that it's just like, you're just.
Well, he's also, like, a piece of shit in the way that's, like, not. He's not, like, loathsome. Like, he doesn't beat his kid or cheat on his wife or anything like that. He's just not present.
Didn't he cheat on his wife?
Sorry, he does. He does. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I picked 2 bad things out of my head and didn't really even try to filter them out. But he does not beat his kid.
He's not currently cheating on his wife, but he definitely is emotionally cheating on his wife.
Yeah. He's got a box in his son's closet full of his
son's closet
mixtapes.
What the fuck is that, man?
Not a good one.
No, but yeah, so his son can't sleep. because of like there's a monster in his closet. And basically this like the father very much blows up the kid off and just like tells him like to go to sleep basically. And he's like, I don't know. It's like the first issue is definitely presenting it like, is this actually like real? Is it not real? Well, also
I was pretty sure it was real to the third issue where we finally see the father and the son in the same room.
Yeah, I think it's like, and we kind of in a weird way. I mean, like it's a kind of a connection. Well, we'll get there. In the second issue, we do like apparently the mother went ahead on the trip because she had to go set up her thing, and the father wanted to do a cross country trip with his son. Very apparent, and they stop at his best friend's house. It seems like. Where the best friend basically like gives them more like they do a good job of it. I'm not trying to say like exposition, but kind of just breaking down a bit more of like the guy's not like really like he's not present basically, and talks about his like relationship with his wife, and the friend like pretty much calls him out on a lot of the bullshit. And I did like that whole like being like I thought this would be a friendly conversation, like you don't call me, so I'm gonna be blunt about a lot of shit right now. And I love that. I thought their campfire conversation was just like more and more showing what this person actually is as a character. Because I feel like, I mean, I have unfortunately people that I know like this, and I don't want to call them friends, but I definitely have people that have fallen out of my life, and they don't necessarily see why that is, because they feel like they are the main character of everyone else's world. And just like you're seeing this character be like, he just has no understanding of like why he's a piece of shit. And I think that's just such an interesting and good character development. Is the second issue the one where he's talking to the man who's smoking a cigarette, or is this like purely is the second issue also is with that?
No,
guy?
Sorry, that's the third issue. The second issue is his friend's house. Almost entirely, we get the backstory. We find out about the girlfriend and all that stuff in the third issue when he's talking to the. I think this guy's supposed to be an allegory of some sort. I reread the third issue trying to figure out what the hell it's an allegory for, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. But he literally walks out of the night, says nothing, smokes 2 cigarettes, and then disappears into the night again after revealing that he has cancer. And I mean, that can't be like. There has to be some sort of.
I think it's just more. I think it's kind of just showing off a bit more of like the main character self, because I guess like I'm just thinking about it now where all 3 of these conversations, because we basically get a conversation per issue now that I'm thinking about it, which also is like the conversations are also used, and because of the closet and the monster, basically those are used as ways to just show that he just is not present at all with his kid's life, and he's very much ignoring his child because of all that. And for sure in the third issue, I don't know if it was an allegory, but it was definitely supposed to show that he is so self-centered that this guy asks what's wrong, and then he just like goes down forever. It doesn't give the guy even a chance to like talk, and doesn't ask him any questions. And the character is so up his own ass that he just doesn't realize it whatsoever. To the point,
which is then paired with the scene where he walks back inside, and his son. We see his son. In this case, not literally, but getting choked by this monster, and he's sitting on the other bed, ignoring him, basically. So
it's a very real and rough book.
It's a book. I mean, that's the thing we both thought this was going to be a book about like a horror book.
Monster.
And it turns out it's a book about relationships, which I personally find obviously much more interesting. This is much more to my taste than a horror book would be, and I think the metaphor of the monster being this like monster in their relationship is really effective and successful. Like once we figure out that the reason that he's so afraid of the closet is because the box in the closet is what is like the instigating event for his parents like fights and the reason his parents are yelling at each other, and then that shot, those 2 panels at the end where we see them yelling at each other in silence, and then it goes back and there's a shot of the monster in the closet again to close it out. It's just it's James Tynion's like at his best. I think he does really, really effective like tense storytelling, and as we saw from like the Nice House on the Lake, which is ostensibly a post-apocalyptic story, but is really a story about relationships and people. And that's what I think he writes best, is these strained relationships between people who are in strained situations.
I mean, I think, like, yeah, I mean, it's also, like, Something is Killing the Children is, like, very much about fighting monsters, but a lot of it is also, like, strange relationships. And I don't think he did write The House of Slaughter, but I recommend that first volume because I think it's just absolutely excellent, where it's just more of, like, an interesting romantic relationship between two people being put into a very dark and serious situation. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but The House of Slaughter Volume 1, I think I just read it like a week ago. Really fucking good.
I'm behind on that. We talked about the first couple issues, but
Yeah.
I need to catch up and
They pretty much wrap up that first arc. Like, it's like very self-contained, that first arc, and I thought it was really, really well done.
That won the Eisner for best continuing series, didn't it?
The Something is Killing the Children.
Yeah.
I think it did. I sent you a picture. I think James Tynion won like 3 awards, which is very unheard of.
He cleaned up.
He cleaned up, and he fucking deserved it.
He's one of the best around for a reason.
Yeah.
And I really like. So you said, teaser with a break, you said you didn't really like this book that much.
I guess I was looking for a horror book, and I like what this was, and I think you know what, I'm gonna take it back, because I think if this had another issue on it, I wouldn't have liked it, but I think the 3 setup was good, and I thought that was very good. I didn't expect it to be a very big, like, more of a metaphor book, rather than I thought it was just gonna be much more of just a straight up horror comic. But yeah. I think, honestly, this story will end up sticking with me. After talking with it, I think the story is going to end up sticking with me a lot more than if it was a straight up a horror book.
I also think the fact that it was 3 issues probably should have tipped us off to the fact that it was not going to be a horror book, because I actually don't know if you could have told an effective horror story in that amount of time. But exploring this relationship and this guy's, like, failing really to understand why his, like, relationships are crumbling around him. That, I think, is an effective amount of time, because I don't really want to spend more time with this family after these 3
Yeah, I was like, it's just like, you don't want to see, like, your parents fight, and it's like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to. But yeah, it's like, I think it's just also hard because it just seems like you relate with the kid so much, and it's just like you feel for the kid, because this guy's such a piece of shit. Fucking forgot his son's suitcase, man.
Yeah, I do. I don't really understand
the kid's
how.
4.
Yeah, and then that there is some moments where I'm like, I do think he's obviously a fuck up, but he's getting, like, absolutely beat down by the people around him. That scene where he realizes he forgot his kid's suitcase at his friend's house, and he's like, hey, do you want to just, like, not brush your teeth tonight? And obviously the kid's really excited, because I guess kids hate brushing their teeth. I don't remember hating brushing my teeth as a kid.
Yeah.
But the kid's really excited, and then there's that panel of his friend giving him a look of rage.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I don't know
This
if that
doesn't
was
seem
like
that serious.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that big. I guess the look of rage was more that you didn't have your son's suitcase, more than, like. But no, the guy was like, I guess the guy was just like, no, I think the reason he looked mad about it, because the guy's like, let's go make a run to Walmart, and the guy's like, oh, I'm tired, and I think that's what the friend was mad about. Yeah. But I think it's just more of, like, the guy being on his bullshit instead of just being like, I'm tired. It's like, it's your motherfucking fault, so maybe we should get in the fucking car and get your son a damn toothbrush.
Yeah.
I think that's a look more than anything, rather than like less about I think it's more about, like, this is clearly repeating behavior for him.
Yeah, the only thing I would have liked to see if they were going to do a 4th issue, which I'm perfectly happy with the length of this miniseries, is exploring, like, doing a time jump and exploring the aftermaths of this guy, like, coming back to this guy after the divorce.
And I was about to say, like, I was like, the absolute divorce that's coming towards
him. And I mean, I think that's the implication, is that obviously this whole thing is they literally run from their problems, and that's why the monster standing in for the box in the closet is so effective, because they quite literally move across the country so that closet doesn't exist anymore. The monster's not even there, and of course it follows them across the country. And then the second he walks in the door, he's in another screaming match with his wife. So they have failed to escape their problems. Their problems are still with them. This marriage is ending. I would have liked to see if this character is redeemable, and, like, if we get a 4th issue, or maybe, like, a follow-up miniseries of him returning to this character, and this character, like, exploring what like doing some self-evaluation, because there's zero self-evaluation in this entire book.
No, yeah, it's
he's just sort of complaining about his kid being scared and his marriage falling apart, which
what an asshole.
Yeah.
So unlikable.
I if you're looking for a quick read, I mean, this is a very quick 3 issues, and I think it's really well written.
Yeah, I think I knocked it out in 30 minutes. I think it was a very appropriate length. Like a very good short story, I thought, basically.
Yeah, and once again, shout out to Gavin Fullerton and Chris O'Halloran for the art in this book. They do the art and the colors respectively, and it's I think the art's really effective. And the like, it's got a very horror style art too, which I do think lends itself to this book, which is, you know, the it's not as horrifying obviously, but it reminds me of a lot of like the Hereditary thing, where Hereditary on your first read or first watch is a horror movie with a couple jump scares and some of the scariest things you've ever seen in your life, and one of the worst scenes of all time when a child gets decapitated. And then on your like second and third viewing, you realize it's a family drama, and a really effective family drama at that. So yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention the thing I was talking about earlier with I was reminded of Parasite, with the kid just having nightmares after seeing the man in his, which is you're allowed to have nightmares from that kid. The kid was perfectly allowed to have nightmares from that horrifying image. But I was just like, I was reminded of Parasite, very much so. Yeah,
it's a good parallel too. Anything else to say about The Closet?
No, nothing else. I thought it was a pretty solid miniseries for sure. Yeah. I recommend it.
Yep. All right, we're gonna take a quick break and then come back and talk about episodes 1 through 3 of Paper Girls.
Joey, set 271.
What are you doing? You're not actually going into an asteroid field.
They'd be crazy to follow us, wouldn't they?
You don't have to do this to impress me.
Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, it's time to talk about the first 3 episodes of Amazon's The Paper Girls. No, sorry, just Paper Girls.
The Paper Girls.
Got ahead of myself there. This is the adaptation of the Brian K. Vaughan graphic novel of similar name.
Let me just also put out Cliff Chang because the art is just fucking phenomenal in the book as well. Just want to, continue, Che. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. It follows a group of paper girls they deliver newspapers who, in this version of the story, get shot through time to a future version of themselves 30 years in the future, and are piecing together why that is, and coming across this like time police force and the rebellion that's rebelling against them, as well as dealing with the fact that life doesn't always go the way you want it to, when they figure out, they realize their future selves are not everything that they dreamed of when they were 12 years old. So, I think so far in the first 3 episodes, that's kind of all we get. We get an introduction to the time travel. We meet the 4 paper girls, as well as the older version of
Aaron.
2 of them, or is it just Aaron? Yeah, just Aaron so far.
Yeah, just Aaron so far in the first 3 episodes.
We also learn that Mac, in I don't know what to call it, in like the regular trajectory of her life, dies of a terminal disease, and her brother. I think at the time it was like tuberculosis, so I think it's something that's like we could cure now, I think, or something like that. I can't remember. Something that's curable. I don't know if don't fucking quote me on that, guys. And we discovered that her brother, who was a fuck up in the past, has become a doctor, and she goes and hangs out with him, and that's where we land in the first 3 episodes. So, Corey, as a fan of the book Paper Girls,
yes,
what are your thoughts on the show Paper Girls thus far?
So I think in the book itself, it was going for a different but similar message of like, maybe life doesn't always go where you want it to go, but I think the focus of at least the book more was less about that and more about the journey that these girls like are going throughout time in order for them to get back. And I think the focus on it more was about I guess the group's friendship and dynamic, which I do think works very well in a comic book form, where you have less time to kind of flesh things out. And I understand the necessity, but also the necessity to make the show a bit more about like who these girls are, building up their characters better. And I think the show does a pretty solid job about that. I just kind of wanted, one of the things I liked about Paper Girls was how sci-fi and over the top and how insane it gets so quickly. And I think the first volume of the book is basically crammed in together into the first episode. So the pacing of the first episode is pretty breakneck speed. So when we take a bit of a breather in 2019, I'm just kind of like, oh, so like, I don't know. I just kind of, I feel like we were hanging out in like, I feel like we're hanging out in these timelines a bit too long. And I think as each episode goes on, I like the characters more and more. I mean, I think obviously Mac's supposed to be a fucking asshole early on, and then like over time you like her. Erin's the shy girl. I think over time you're supposed to like her. Tiffany is always the best character and never needs to change. And KJ is absolutely struggling with her sexuality. I mean, I think in the book though, I think KJ was my favorite because she definitely has the most depth with it. And I did like the way they presented her journey as well. Yeah, and I think like as I've gone, I think as like I kind of went a little bit further past the first 3 episodes, and as the show went on, I liked it more and more. But it just wasn't what I expected it to be, and I don't think that's necessarily bad, but I just really, really like the insanity of it, and I think we do get a little bit of it. I mean, there's a giant robot, so that's pretty.
Yeah,
that's
episode
pretty
3 ends with a giant robot.
We couldn't use any Apple references, but we did get an Amazon store in there, so, gotta get that fucking... I was mad at that scene. I was like, come the fuck on. Like, seriously? I guess... Okay, I didn't know if it was a meta joke or not, because I think all the Amazon bookstores had to close. And I think that was... I don't know. It's like, in my mind, it's kind of funny. If it's like 2019, we had bookstores, but now they don't have bookstores anymore, so that's kind of funny to me. But at the same time, it's like, pieces of shit.
I do think there's like always elements of time travel shows that I think they leave on the table, or like these girls have just traveled from 1988. They would be losing their fucking minds, and obviously there is some of that. They're like there's a couple jokes about Mac is walking around with like a Walkman, and her brother just like does voice control to play whatever band she was listening to. I don't remember what it was. And that like blows her little mind. But the number of things that have changed from 1980 to 2019, and you could just like, it's different than if you lived through that time, but you just woke up and it was, and it was iPods and fucking iPhones and.
Yeah, like, I mean, some of the scenes though, like I did like the scene is like, what's the internet? And them just like kind of like doing the whole Zoolander scene where they're just like trying to figure out how it worked. I'm like, that was funny.
Googling themselves immediately as a very human reaction to discovering the internet. Yeah, there are elements of it that I think are obviously successful, but I think this show could have dived much more into that, because dropping a bunch of children with like childlike wonder into the future is so rife for like very fun storytelling that I'm not saying this show has failed in that entirely. It feels very tame for a show that is...
I think that's what I'm feeling too, where it's just like, I feel like this is like way too calm, and the book is just so like, they're very much, it's like a lot more like, we got to keep going basically, because, and I feel like this doesn't have as much of like the chasing down presence that the book had. Like they couldn't really sit somewhere for too long, but like, I feel like in the TV show, they're giving them a bit more of a breather. And like, I'm just like, like they're like being actively pursued. And I feel like even though it is happening in the first 3 episodes, it doesn't necessarily feel as much, if that makes sense.
I also understand logistically the idea of like, we need to get to the future quickly, where 1, our like recognizable actors are, and 2, where it's going to be like cheaper for us to make this television show. Because even though the 1980s is not like Renaissance Italy or anything like that in production costs, it is cheaper to just shoot in modern day America than it would be in 1988 America.
Yeah, and also like, not a huge spoiler, but like I gotta imagine the future set pieces for the show gotta be pretty fucking out there, especially the future parts. I mean, it's probably gonna be obviously a lot of green screen, but it's like that's gonna be a bit expensive.
Well, we were talking about this in relation to The Boys. Like, if this follows the trajectory of The Boys, another Amazon show based on a comic book, and
Well, this seems at least to be like trying to follow the book a little bit. Like, there's definitely like
yes, but
there's
it's
a
also
lot of
much
changes.
better book that it's based
Yeah,
on.
that is also very true.
But also just like my point was really just The Boys. Season 1 of The Boys is far more toned down production wise, design obviously, like just cost wise, and then once they've discovered that it's a success, Amazon seems clearly willing to invest a lot of money into their products, which The Boys has become, has really got blown out as far as production wise goes. And this last couple seasons, they've added a ton of cast members. They shot in more places. Obviously, the CGI and special effects have gotten more involved. I think with Paper Girls being a success, which is so far it is, I would imagine that seasons 2 and so on of this show will be much more blown out, which will serve this book well, because this book is, like you said, batshit crazy.
Batshit crazy. I mean, no, there's a reason why. I mean, I think it's one of those. It's really funny though for me. Like, probably one of my top 5 comics of all time, and and it's like one of those adaptations where I'm like, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I wanted, which is very rare. I feel like when it comes to something like that you like getting adapted. I feel like it's you either love it or you either hate it, and I'm like very much down the middle on an adaptation, leaning more that I think this is a good show.
I wonder how people who have not read Paper Girls feel about this book or this show.
That's a good question. I'm wondering as well. And I do like it doesn't feel like, and I was worried about this. I thought they were going to present it more like an all-girl version of Stranger Things, and I'm happy that they didn't go that route.
Sort of how it started, and I was with you too.
It did. I was worried. I was just like, oh shit.
This.
And I'm like, no, don't copy it. And I'm glad that they didn't. Because
also Stranger Things is just like, it's lightning in a bottle to get a cast of kids that is that talented all in one place. Like, that show is hanging together by a shoestring. If even one of those kids is not as good an actor as they turn out to be, Stranger Things does not work in its first couple seasons. And we probably don't even get to the last couple seasons. But luckily, this show is not that, and has leaned more on the performance of Ali Wong, who I think is actually pretty good in this show, and Nate Cordry is he's also really good in this. So I think when shows try to be Stranger Things or Game of Thrones, which are the two archetypes we often see in new television shows, they like, it's like, I don't know if you guys realize how lucky those two shows were to be as successful as they ended up being. But luckily, this is not Stranger Things.
Yeah,
we're not trying to be Stranger Things,
which I think is good. I was very worried about that. I'm like, and the fucking trailer was like, oh no, like don't do that.
Yeah.
Also,
I think it's hard to make a trailer set in like a 1980s America with kids on bikes that doesn't look like Stranger Things.
It came first. It came first.
But I'm saying the show. I'm not blaming Paper Girls for.
Do you think someone tried to pitch this first to Apple? Because like I feel like that was like, I mean, in the book, I don't know if you remember, but Apple is such a very prominent part of the book.
I don't know.
And I'm wondering.
Not until very recently has Apple's television department been like at all worthwhile, like sending your actual IP to. If the show had entered production after the airing of Severance, maybe yes, but when the show was in production, all they'd done was make a bad Jason Momoa show. So like,
that's very fair.
I don't know if people were really going to Apple for their TV shows.
That's very, very fair. Well, yeah. I think I don't have. I mean, I don't think I have anything else to say about Paper Girls. Maybe we'll do a season finale check-in in like an episode or two. Give people enough time to watch it. I recommend it. I think I'm gonna give it like I recommend it if you were looking for something. I don't want to say lighthearted, but it's like you're not gonna like. Actually, I don't want to gauge people's emotions, but like I don't think it's like I think it's like a good.
It's not. It's not like.
You're not gonna. It's not heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
There's death, but it's like not like heavy death, you know. Regular death.
Like heavy, regular death. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was telling Cory before this. I talked before, and I've also like really not trying to be the guy that dislikes everything, and mostly because it's not the case. I don't dislike everything. It just we've had a run of shit recently.
Yeah, we have.
But I think there's certainly a type of person that we really invested in the show, and I think I don't really know what the parallels are to it, so it's hard for me to draw. Like, if you like this show, this will be another good one for you. But I would say give the first episode a chance if you're like on the fence about it, and then if you get really sucked in by the first episode, absolutely this will be the show for you. Because I would not recommend this to everybody because I do think it's of a type and it will not be universally beloved, but it is successfully what it's trying to do.
There's something that this show reminds me that I cannot put my finger on it right now, and it's fucking killing me.
Well, the thing that it reminds me of, which is not a compliment, and it only reminds me of it like sort of tangentially, is the Amazon adaptation of Utopia, which I've talked about as like one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's not the same in quality, but like tonality and the way it looks are very similar, and the way the show is like paced is very similar. But that is not me saying this is as good as Amazon's Utopia at all. I
will say that I think the pace to me is like my biggest complaint about the show, where it's like how fast and how slow are we going, and it's like kind of just goes back and forth. Where I just like, and to me, I'm just like, this is to me, I'm like, this part of most of the season is not like from the comic, and I know where they're between like right now, and I'm just like, but like I want to get to that part. Like, can we please get to that part? And I'm like waiting, and I'm like. It's just like it's like a fucking roller coaster. And I'm like, just get to the fun parts.
Yeah, I get. You know what it reminds me of? Actually, I just made this connection. It reminds me of like the girl version of Dirk Gently. Did you ever watch the Dirk Gently show?
I watched some of it. I watched some of it on your recommendation.
Yeah, it's like if instead of Daniel Radcliffe, Dirk Gently was a bunch of 12-year-old girls. So I think that's probably the best parallel. If you're like a big Dirk Gently fan, go check out Paper Girls.
It's gonna be on the tip of my tongue. I'm probably gonna remember it tomorrow what this reminds me of.
Corey will tweet it out. He will log into the Twitter for the first time in months, and he will tweet out why he thinks
you don't know
Paper
that.
Girls is like.
you can't hold me to that.
Anything else for the people today, Corey?
Nothing else for the people.
Well, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're not watching on YouTube, check the link in the description. Go over there, give us a follow, all that good stuff. If you could, on your social media platforms, go follow us at Next Time on Pod. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars basically everywhere. We're all over the place. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can't run from us.
You know what? I'm going to steal this from another podcast to listen to. If you guys write us a great 5-star or a funny 5-star review, I will read it on the podcast.
Okay, it's a good deal. I like that. I like that deal. All right, well,
whatever you post, I will read it. I'll do it.
Don't say
it.
Don't say whatever you post.
Whatever you post, I'll fucking do it.
Don't say legally. That. Say a different thing.
No. I've been Corey.
We'll see you next time.
Bye. Anything at all.
Sweet Christmas.